It started out as free.
But then they said it would only be a few cents a day.
What you're hearing is real, and it may be happening to you.
I pay for streaming video, then the cloud storage, then streaming audio. Where does it end?
It ended up being a lot every month.
This is the sound of nickel and diming syndrome. It's a real thing.
It is a real thing.
I just want to hear my music. Is that so wrong?
There is hope. For millions of people, there's radio.
Radio?
Radio. With 0 down and 0 per month. Radio delivers all the news, music, and entertainment you want, when you want it, for free. No usernames, passwords, or Wi-Fi connections required.
Here's my card number. It's 735...
Shh! Don't speak. When you listen to local radio, you'll never need that.
Oh, this is so wonderful.
Yes, it is. The cure for nickel and diming syndrome.
Oh, I could use a hug.
It's radio. No subscription required.
It's time for the Garden Guide with your host, Mark Anderson from Anderson Seed and Garden.
New research suggests that people are more likely to eat vegetables if they have a tempting name.
What would life be without homegrown tomatoes? Only two things that money can't buy, and that's true love and homegrown tomatoes.
From gardening to landscaping.
Today we are going to try and create garden eyebrows. Kind of like the flowers are sprouting directly from your hair. That makes sense.
Phone lines are open at 753-KVNU or 800-369-KVNU.
Kind of like eating vegetables.
It's the Garden Guide, now on KVNU 610 AM and 102 FM.
And we welcome you to the show on this beautiful Saturday morning. You say, wait, beautiful?
It's raining outside.
When you're talking gardening, this is beautiful. We were just mentioning if you're camping, maybe not so much. But what a better way to start out the show this morning than with just a little rain. This storm cell is just checking it out on the radar. It extends from Ogden all the way up to the south portion of Bear Lake, Randolph area. So it's just kind of hitting us, moving quickly through, and then we'll kind of wait and see what the next storm has. We've got this chance of storms all weekend.
Yeah. Hey, we'll take the cooler temperatures. We'll take the moisture.
Yeah.
You know, the plants will absorb a lot of that moisture in through the foliage as well as up through the root system. So it cools everybody down, and they just seem to grow. Man, my tomatoes have jumped another foot, I swear, in the last week. Yeah, they're just like all over the place. So they're...
My corn just shot this last week. It tasseled, and so we were out there a couple nights ago. The bees are just loving
all
the
over
corn.
The place.
Everywhere.
Yeah, lots of pollen out there for the bees right now. So lots of flowers in bloom. Everybody's corn's coming on, and so lots of pollen. Yeah, the bees are having a heyday. So that's just great.
They're happy, so we're happy. So
a lot of harvesting going on. Cucumbers are going crazy. Zucchinis are going crazy. My onions are starting to die down, which is, it's the middle of August. It's it's pretty normal between now and the first part of September for the onions to kind of start dying down. And, early potatoes are starting to die down too. I've got people coming in asking about, why are my potatoes dying down? It's like, they're probably ready.
They're getting there. Yeah.
They're probably ready. Dig them up. Start eating them. So, it's great. It's great to have this much coming on. We picked our beans like crazy. We had like a bushel of beans off of about 50 feet. So
great.
That's a lot of beans. Yeah, that's a lot of beans. And our corn's doing the same thing. Tasseling, looking great, good production. Got to start putting the traps out.
Yeah. There's a lot of...
We got raccoons and skunks in the neighborhood.
We've got a muskrat that's been up and around the backyard that I set a trap for Thursday night.
Yeah.
We're hoping to be able to snag him pretty quick.
Yeah, we've heard the raccoons and the skunks, and smelled the skunks, not heard the skunks, but smelled the skunks and heard the raccoons out running around. So it's time to set up some traps for those guys before they shred our corn again this year.
Yeah.
That's kind of how it goes.
Now, we were talking last week about powdery mildew.
Yes.
And that's really, really problem.
Yeah, this is
now.
like prime conditions for powdery mildew. So I was planning on this weekend, depending on what the weather does, getting out there and doing some spraying for the mildew, because we're going to see mildew like crazy with these higher humidity, cooler temperatures at night, definitely, hot temperatures during the day. Even if we're hitting, mid 80s, that's prime conditions for powdery mildew to go crazy. So I'll be getting out there and spraying my my squashes, melons, cucumbers, any of the vines for sure are really affected by it. Kind of, watch some of the other plants. A lot of flowers, zinnias are especially susceptible to it. Columbines, things like that. Maples, our neighbor down the street's got maples that are just like covered with white film, and they've got mildew on them already. That started up just a couple weeks ago. So for safe stuff to use in the garden, Complete Disease Control from Monterey is excellent. It's a natural bacteria. It does a great job at controlling all kinds of diseases, and you can use it right up to the minute you're going to harvest. I mean, it's really safe to use. Same with Copper Soap from Natural Guard, a really great product. That Copper Soap does an excellent job on all kinds of diseases. But again, it's all natural. It's organic. It's safe to use right up to the minute you're going to harvest the plants and eat them. So you could go in and spray your zucchinis and go, oh, darn it, I was going to eat those, tonight, and then just still pick them, take them inside, rinse them off, and and you're good. You're good to go. Yeah, and the zucchinis are going crazy right now, and they love this extra moisture. So it's amazing how much moisture those zucchinis pick up. I mean, think how fast they produce. I mean, so one day you've got this little teeny squash, and then 2 days later you've got this monster. It's mostly
size of a baseball bat.
Water. Yeah, it's mostly water, so it's picking up water like crazy. So make sure this time of year where your zucchinis and crooknecks are really producing like crazy, make sure they are getting consistent waterings. Even getting a rainstorm here and there is wonderful, but make sure and deep water those. I'm doing mine about every 4 days, and they're getting a good heavy watering every 4 days. Then they can pick up that moisture for the next 3 or 4 days, and they're just producing faster, and we can stay on top of them. Yeah. So not too bad at all. But yeah, mildew. Definitely want to watch mildew. It gets into the apples. It gets into a lot of the fruit trees as well too. So that's something we want to kind of keep an eye out for. And people are harvesting peaches already. I mean, it's just things are moving along.
Yeah, our apples are coming along. Peaches, not quite yet.
Yeah.
Pears are kind of right with our apples, so we're still probably a month and a half out.
The early peaches are starting to come on. So if you've got like a Red Haven or anything that's a little bit earlier than that, they're all starting to come on. And I've got a donut peach that I was going to check this morning before I came down, but I didn't get a chance to. I haven't looked at it for just over a week, so it could be getting pretty close. That donut peach is really, really early, and it's amazing.
Wow.
It's flat. Yeah.
Really?
So
Flat?
it looks like a flying saucer. So it's flat on the top and the bottom. The variety is called Saturn, so it looks kind of like the rings of Saturn.
The rings of Saturn?
Yeah, yeah. And it's a white peach. It's so sweet. It's amazing. It's really, really good.
Oh.
Yeah.
And on top of that, grasshoppers have not gotten any better since we were talking last week.
Grasshoppers and box elder bugs and spiders, and all the insects are kind of going crazy right now. But hey, it is that time of year. It's like last month, everybody's like, oh, it's so hot. It's like, well, you know what? It is July. Yeah. And it's supposed to be hot. Well, we're into August now, and we're starting to get that monsoonal moisture, which is, again, very normal. I mean, it's really normal for this to happen. So this is great. This is a bonus on top of
just what we needed.
Yeah, it's a bonus on top of what we got last week with all that rain. Every time we get some nice storms this month, that's going to be bonus for all the plants. That's great. It means we don't have to water as much. It's cooler temperatures. I'll take those mid to low 80s any day.
Yeah. We were noticing our yard finally has started to green back up again because we'd cut back a lot on our watering.
Yeah.
And it's greened up, and now we got to mow it again.
Oh,
it's like,
amazing.
oh man.
Yeah, it's amazing what almost 2 inches of rain will do to everybody's lawn. So it's just like all it takes is a week or 10 days, and all the grass just greens right back up.
Took off.
Yeah. So it's been a great month so far for moisture, and everybody in the valley has been very conscientious of water usage. I think everyone's been trying to conserve as much as possible. So I think that's amazing. That's great.
Well, and Joel Ferry from the Utah Division of Water Resources put out yesterday that the storm that we had up here dropped the drought conditions. So for the state, and that was mainly because both here and Tooele were the two areas that saw heavy rain last week, and he said that actually pulled us a portion of this area out of extreme drought. I mean, still 70, I think it's about 78% of the state's still sitting in extreme drought, but
we've been
every little bit it's going to help.
Yeah, we've been fortunate. I mean, we got a lot more snowpack than everyone else, so we've had water flow coming out of the canyon. I don't think any of the canals have been shut down yet this year. There's still water going, and so that's great for the farmers. That's great for secondary water users as well too. So it's been a great summer.
And for our firefighters, I know they're grateful for it too. We haven't had any major fires up in this area.
Yeah. Last year this time, the valley was blanketed with smoke. Yeah. And it started about mid-July, and it just lasted until mid to late August, and it just wouldn't go away. So, it's like there was more than one reason why everyone was wearing masks last year.
Yeah, we hated the smoke.
More than one reason,
But a pretty good storm cell that's just basically kind of sitting right over Sardine Canyon all the way up through Logan Canyon right now, and it is bringing some good moisture up into the mountains. Yep. So we'll take it.
A lot of things happening at Anderson's. Our cash sale is still going on, so cash sale continues. We've got some great trees. We've got flowering and fruit trees and shade trees. We have evergreens. We've got some gorgeous flowering shrubs and vines that are all on sale. And if you come in and you pay with cash, you get an extra 10% off of our sale price. So right now we're doing 15% off of all of our remaining roses and shrubs and trees. And if you pay with that cash with the old-fashioned green papery presidents, then you get an extra 10% off. And so you're getting 25% off on your purchases right now if you come in and pay with cash. And so it's a great time to take advantage of a great selection of plants. We probably won't be getting any more trees or shrubs in for this year. I think we got our last shipment in last week, and so I think we're pretty much there, unless we have a big order that comes in. But best selection of season for clearance starting up right now, and you get that extra 10% if you pay with cash. So if you pay with a credit card or a debit card or a check, you're going to get 15% off. But if you pay with cash, you're going to get that extra 10, and you'll get 25% off. Compost tea, this is probably our last week.
Brewing.
Last week for brewing the compost tea. So sometime this week we're probably going to run out, and we try and shoot for right around the time school starts, and
that's about to start too.
This week, school starts this week for both school districts.
I think teachers are going back Wednesday, Thursday, and then of course high school football started last night. And then for most of the kids, they start the end of this week, first of next week.
Yeah. So it's that time of year.
Yes, it is. Yes, it is. And we're taking calls for what you're dealing with your gardening needs. Yes. And if you're dealing with the grasshoppers like all the rest of us, you can call in with any suggestions you might have for tackling grasshoppers. I've gotten to the point where my favorite thing to do is to go out in the garden and flick those little things.
It's kind of satisfying, isn't it?
Yeah, it is.
I've really had great results with my cedar oil. I mean, I've had some insects, so I've had some insect damage, but not too bad. And I've been using the cedar oil this summer, and I haven't really had to spray for bugs, for like no insecticides. I've just used the cedar oil. So they've nibbled a little bit on my potatoes. I had a little bit of nibbling on the beans, and but nothing too crazy. So it hasn't stopped them 100%, but I'd say probably 85 to 90% of the damage that the insects would normally do has been cut down. That's with just a couple applications of the cedar oil granules. So I've been very content with it. If you want complete eradication, you will not be content with the cedar oil. It's just not going to work that way. But if you're okay sharing a little bit with some of the bugs, then it seems to work amazingly well. Yeah. Okay. So I've had such great results that way. Still have had a few grasshoppers, but nothing like we would otherwise. And a lot of the other insects have really cut them down as well too. So probably due for another application here. Mid-August, it's time for another shot of the insect repellent just to keep everybody out for the rest of the season. But it's harvest time. I mean, this is the best time of year to have a garden because you're enjoying the bounty of
all your labor,
all the work, all the work that you put in for this year. So it's a great time. Great time. So we can talk a little bit of harvest on onions. We can talk harvest on potatoes. We can talk ripening tomatoes. If you've got a lot of green tomatoes and you're trying to get them to ripen up, we can answer questions on those. A lot of stuff happening with lawns. So many people want to change their lawns out. I've got a lot of people coming in the store and they're like, I just want to take my parking strip out and I'm just going to put rocks in there. It's like, well, that's not really up to code for most communities, but we need some plant material in there. And there's a lot of varieties of grasses that we can plant that are much, much more drought tolerant, still look amazing, stay green, hardly have to water them at all, to keep them green throughout the summer. Really do a great job. With a big rainstorm like what we had this month, man, that's a month's worth of water for some of those drought tolerant grasses. Yeah, that's like a whole month's worth of green you're going to get out of it. So, there's some distinct advantages to keeping turf in your yard. It really does help cool things down. It really does create a lot of oxygen. It really filters a lot of dust and debris out of the air. It traps all that water that we got. Just imagine if we all had hardscape everywhere and we got 2 inches of water. Hey, we're in the same boat that they are in Phoenix when they get 2 inches of rain. I mean, there's nowhere for the water to go. It just runs everywhere. Yeah. And so, having turf helps trap that water, helps pull it down into the ground. Ground moisture builds our ground moisture up. So, turf is really great. So we can definitely talk how to plant a new lawn, how to incorporate some new grass into your existing lawn. And it's not as hard as you think. I mean, it's really, really pretty easy. We redid a section of our lawn 2 years ago, and it was one of the easiest jobs that I think I've ever done to redo a whole area of grass. It was really simple. Definitely not as hard as redoing our retaining wall this past month.
Oh yeah, yeah, those retaining walls.
80-pound bricks were a lot of fun to haul across the yard and try and set those up. And
753-5868 or 1-800-369-5868. Yeah, 753-KVNU or 1-800-369-KVNU if you have a question for Mark, as we're talking all things gardening and lawns. And also, it is a good time to continue to watch with these storms coming in. You might be able to readjust those sprinkler systems. I know we shut ours off last week.
We shut ours off for a week.
Yeah.
Yeah, we shut it off for a week.
Didn't turn it on until last Thursday night, I guess it was.
Yeah, because when you see a storm that comes in and you've got an inch of rain, that's a whole week's worth of water. Well, we got almost 2 inches of rain, so that's more than a week's worth of water. So we just basically shut our sprinklers off for a whole week because of the amount of moisture that we got. And everybody's lawn is really, really perked up, and hopefully it will continue, and we'll keep getting these nice storms, on a weekly basis, and keep the moisture rolling. So, but a couple of years ago, we decided to kill a section of our lawn because it had been 20 years since we planted it. We had some weedy grasses that had snuck in there, some other really aggressive weeds, and we had some sprinkler issues where we had to fix some valves and some lines, and so the soil had sunk a little bit there. So it was time to repair, and so we sprayed with Decimate, and within 2 days we saw all that grass just dying. And about 3 days after the first spray, we sprayed it again. And then just a couple days after that, the grass was completely dead. And so all it took was just 5 days with 2 applications of the Decimate from Fertilome, and that entire section of grass is about 1,500 square feet, was completely dead. We took our lawnmower and dropped the blade down as low as it would possibly go. So we just dropped the blade just right down to the ground and just scalped the whole thing. So we just scalped that area right down to the ground. And then I took bunch of topsoil and just spread that over that entire area. Just a 1/4 of an inch of soil, just raked that over the entire area. And the spots that had sunk where that we had to do the repairs on the sprinklers, I was able to kind of fix those and kind of regrade and put some new soil in there. And so I just groomed that whole area with the dead grass, didn't till it, didn't turn it over, didn't do anything, just left the dead grass, mowed it right down to the ground, 1/4 to a 1/2 inch of topsoil right over the top of the dead grass. And then we seeded it. So we seeded it 5 days after the first spray. So we sprayed, waited 2 or 3 days, sprayed again, waited 2 or 3 days. Everything was completely dead. Seeded it that day, and it really didn't take very long. It was basically me with a rake and a wheelbarrow out there, and I did the whole thing in just a couple hours. Seeded it, raked it again, went over it lightly with a lawn roller, fertilized it, and then we adjusted our sprinklers for that section for probably about 5 minutes, 3 times a day. So we had it coming on for 5 minutes, 3 times a day, at 9 o'clock in the morning, at 12 or 1 o'clock in the afternoon, and about 4 or 5 o'clock in the afternoon. And we had grass up in 5 days.
In 5
wow. days. So
less than a week.
In less than 2 weeks from the time we started, we had grass back. And and we started at about the 10th or 15th of July. And so by Labor Day, you couldn't tell that we'd killed all that grass. So by Labor Day, we had mowed it a couple times. Grass had filled right back in, and it was actually the greenest, most gorgeous part of our lawn every spring since. So we've experienced 2 springs now since we've done that, and it has been the greenest, nicest looking part of our lawn for the longest. So we've incorporated some of these drought tolerant grasses into it, and so it's greener. It's disease resistant. It's insect resistant. Like insects won't eat it because of the amount of ryegrass that's in there. And it takes half the water that the rest of our lawn does. So in the spring, we can just let it go until we start to see parts of our lawn start to stress. And when those parts of the lawn start to stress, we know it's time to start watering. Well, this part is just like still green and lush. I mean, it's amazing what a difference it is. So it's very, very easy to incorporate these same varieties of grass into your lawn, whether you're overseeding or whether you just want to kill a section out and plant some new grass. But magically, you can have less water, same green color, less insects, less disease, just by adding a new variety of grass to your lawn. Just by bringing a new variety in. So
definitely something to look into, especially if you've got a couple of those little dead spots or some damage. Or...
I had someone in the other day. They were buying an insecticide for their lawn, and it cost them $100 to buy enough product to cover their lawn. They have a pretty good sized lawn, and so it cost them about $100. And I was like, if you invested $100 into a new grass seed, we could, pretty much take care of your entire lawn with the $100 of grass seed, overseeding his existing lawn. So this is not killing and starting from scratch. This is just overseeding. It's like for $100 this year and $100 next year, we could probably get enough of this new variety of grass into your lawn that you wouldn't have to water as much. You'd never have to buy an insecticide again.
Yeah.
I mean, your $100 of every year for insecticide is now gone. You just don't have to do it. So, yeah.
Great thing to look into.
Yeah.
Well, let's go out to the phone lines. We have Curtis joining us on the line from Clarkston. Curtis, welcome to the Garden Guide.
Morning.
Good morning.
Yeah, I see the rain ban coming there a little while ago, but we wasn't lucky enough to get any this morning.
Darn it. Miss Clarkston.
Yes, darn it.
Yeah. We're in a different airflow here, but we did get a good one earlier. We had about inch and 3/4.
Oh, so, wonderful.
10 days ago or so.
Yep,
so
that's great.
That's your original miracle grow is rain.
Yeah.
So.
Yes, that's the truth, isn't it? It is. What's up, Curtis?
I was in the other day and got some tree treats from you.
Yes.
You probably remember me stuck between 2 Santas there for a few minutes.
Yes, that's right.
Yeah. But I haven't put them in yet. It's really a coarse bark. It's the ash tree. And so I look at it trying to decide where to drill. You got quite a variety in high and low. So do you want to go to the most inner part of your bark? You don't want to go out on if you want to call them ribs or...
Right. That's a great question. That's a great question. So it doesn't matter where you drill because that bark's going to be a different color than the tissue that we're going to get into. So we're going to drill until you hit that white tissue that's just underneath the bark, and then you're going to go an inch past that bark. So right where that white tissue starts is where you're going to start your measuring. You're going to go about an inch past that bark tissue. And then I do a slight angle down, so like even about a 15-degree angle downward. And I'll start about 18 inches to 2 feet off the ground. and then start drilling in. And I do this time of year, I would do a hole about every probably 6 to 8 inches. We don't want to put too much in because it can burn the trees, especially if they're really iron deficient. But in the spring, you can go heavier. You can go up to 1 every 4 inches. And so somewhere between 6 and 8 inches every hole. And then I move up 1 inch every time I move over 6. So I'll start my first hole about 2 feet off the ground, and then I'll move over about 6 inches and up 1, drill in on a slight angle downwards, and then I'll move over another 6 inches or so and up 1, and then drill in. So you're gradually gonna like spiral up. So you're gonna barber pole it as you go, and when you get back to where you started, you're gonna be 4 to 6 inches above that, depending on how many holes you put in. And you're done. You don't need to do another hole. So that's how to do it, Curtis.
It's a large tree. I mean, it's 30 feet tall. It's
so it's a pretty good sized tree. Yeah.
Yeah. The drip line, you're probably looking 50.
Yeah.
The crossways.
Right. Right.
And the tree, it's like on the west. More yellow. You can just about draw a line up the middle.
Right.
One side's more yellow than the other, but just treat it the same all the way around.
Treat it the same all the way around. Yeah, because you never quite know where that's going to go. But if you have like one branch that's really causing problems, because sometimes you'll just get one branch that is really severely iron deficient, the rest of the tree's okay, you could just do that one branch too. You don't have to do the trunk. You could actually do it in one of the branches as well. But if you've got a 12-inch diameter trunk, you're going to end up doing probably 5 to 6 implants on that to get all the way around.
Closer to 2 feet on.
Yeah,
probably 2.5 feet diameter on
So if you got if you got a 2-foot diameter tree, you're gonna probably use that whole package. It's gonna be pretty close.
But no, it's okay. We'll try that.
All right.
Every 6 inches, doesn't matter as long as you get back into the woody part.
Exactly.
There.
Yep.
One comment on this bark. I was listening to a radio program one time. The gal from Richfield had a nursery down there, and she specialized in native plants. And she talked about the bark on trees, and as a part that I didn't appreciate as much before. After hearing her talk about it, and just how that's just part of your tree. We have the different leaves, the different colors.
Yeah.
The evergreens, whatever. And so I've paid more attention to bark on different trees, and it's everything from the smooth ash to the coarse, cottonwood trees.
Right.
And there's some north rim of the Grand Canyon and up around Crater Lake area. There's a variety of pine trees. Not sure other places, but they have almost a salmon-colored bark, and man, they're beautiful. It's
beautiful.
Just,
it's interesting.
If you look,
it's interesting.
Kind of overlooked sometimes, but.
Right.
Okay, well, thanks for your question. And probably see you this week sometime.
Sounds great, Curtis. Thanks so much for the phone call, Curtis. Have a great weekend. All right. It's interesting how the bark evolves over time as well, too. So, as the trees are younger, you're going to have a smoother, different colored bark. And as they start to mature into their more mature bark, which usually happens sometime between, 7 and 10 years, they'll start to develop a more rough textured bark, and it's a very different look to it. There's some trees that have really just, gorgeous bark to them. So I love beech trees. The beech have like really beautiful bark to them. So it's great. It's a great comment. Great observation from Curtis. So
it's one of the things I tell my girls every time we go backpacking. We're walking by a tree and I see someone that's carved their initials into it. I say, did they ever realize that they just killed that tree?
Did some damage for sure. Did some damage. Yeah.
Usually nothing worse than coming across those when you're out backpacking in the mountains. We're going to head into the bottom of the hour news break and be right back, and we can take more of your calls at 753-5868 or 1-800-369-5868 if you have a question about your garden, your lawn, talking trees as well. All things for the Garden Guide. More on the way next here on KVNU.
I'm
I'm Will Feelright with your KVNU News update this hour. It's brought to you by Napa Auto Parts. Police have arrested a suspect in that hit-and-run crash that left an 11-year-old boy dead back on August 10th. The crash happened shortly after 11:30 in an area of 4200 South and 4000 West in West Valley City. Now, authorities said a vehicle had drove off the road and onto the sidewalk where it hit the child. The driver reportedly did not stop. West Valley City Police on Friday stated that Stephen Rollins, a 46-year-old, is suspected to be the person who was behind the wheel. In the preliminary stages of the investigation, police stated the only information they had was the vehicle was a large and dark-colored vehicle. As authorities gathered additional information, though, they updated the vehicle description to be a light-colored Toyota truck with front-end damage. Using the description, officials began interviewing residents living nearby and were able to track Rollins. And a Utah Transit Authority train derailed Friday after colliding with a van in South Salt Lake. UTA officials said the S-Line train had derailed near Main Street and Central Point Place. Now, the driver of the van is believed to have run a red light and was transported to the hospital with injuries, although they are not considered to be life-threatening. The street was blocked off as crews worked to get the train back onto the tracks. Well, looking at a pretty nice weekend as we work through the weather forecast for the next several days, as we do have a chance of some isolated thunderstorms that will be cropping up over the next several days. But overall, temperatures still not bad. Mid-80s for our high, with overnight temperatures right around the mid-60s, with this chance of showers tapering off by Sunday and mostly sunny skies for the first of next week. Will Feelright for KVNU News.
From ABC Sports. Hi, everybody. I'm Todd, and a huge blow to the San Diego Padres. Their shortstop, Fernando Tatis Jr., tested positive for a banned substance and is done for the season, getting an 80-game ban that goes into 2023. ESPN's baseball insider Jeff Passan says this is the biggest drug suspension since Alex Rodriguez.
The fact that Fernando Tatis Jr., at 23 years old, really at the beginning of a 14-year, $340 million guaranteed contract that he signed with the Padres, was frankly stunning. All of baseball right now is shocked by this.
The Red Hot Dodgers were in action in Kansas City looking for their 11th win in a row, locked in a tie game in the top of the 7th.
Here's the 2-2 to Turner, ground ball, base hit through the left side of the infield.
On Dodgers Radio AM 570, Trey Turner's two-run single got the L.A. Dodgers started. They added 5 runs in the 7th and beat the Royals 8-3. This is ABC Sports.
Monday, August 22nd, come help ignite the light with Alex Boyer as he performs a free concert at the Cache County Fairgrounds, bringing positive support to suicide prevention. Suicide affects all walks of life, backgrounds, and age demographics. Join Alex Boyer Monday, August 22nd for a free concert bringing attention to suicide prevention and a new national suicide and crisis lifeline, 988. If you think you may need help or just want to talk with someone, call 988. Donations of any size are accepted and welcome to help make this event possible. Go to CacheValleyIgniteTheLight.com for concert details and donation information. The outpouring of support for this event last year was unbelievable. Business and individual donations are vital for the 2022 event. Join Alex Boyer at the Cache County Fairgrounds Monday, August 22nd for a free concert bringing attention and positive support to suicide prevention. Donations of any size are accepted and welcome. Go to CacheValleyIgniteTheLight.com for concert details and donation information. That's CacheValleyIgniteTheLight.com. And thank you for making this event possible.
Hi, this is Gordon Deal. Monday on This Morning, America's First News, why a record-breaking amount of money is expected to be spent in an off-year election this fall. Here are the 3 main reasons so much is at stake. Also, among the retailers who over-ordered supplies during pandemic demand, bicycle shops. But then our spending habits changed. And how to jump on falling airfares and hotel rates. Monday on This Morning, America's First News. Monday morning from 4 to 6 on News Talk KVNU, 610 AM and 102 FM. Your station for news, weather, and sports.
From gardening to landscaping, it's the Garden Guide on News Talk KVNU, 610 AM and 102.1 FM.
And we welcome you back to the show, 8:38 on this Saturday morning. As rain outside the KVNU studios, just a light drizzle now, but we'll take it. And we'll take more of your phone calls, 753-5868, 1-800-369-5868. If you have a question for Mark from Anderson Seed and Garden. And Mark, we had a caller during the break,
Yes.
Dave from Brigham City, Wanted to know about washing vegetables, especially from a grocery store versus a garden.
And that's a really great question because, it's always a good idea to wash your vegetables, especially if it's coming out of your garden. I mean, think about what fertilizers you're using out there. If you're using a lot of steer manure or poultry compost, it's got a lot of natural bacteria and diseases in there that we necessarily don't want to be consuming, whether it's E. coli or salmonella. It's kind of inherently there in most of those composts. And so it's a great idea to make sure and wash your plants before you consume. And so just in your garden, even if you're using pesticides, you've had to spray for some grasshoppers that have been nibbling on everything, it's always a great idea to wash your plants and your harvest off as well too. And for the most part, you don't need to use anything stronger than just water. Rinse them off. Some people who are a little bit more particular, peroxide works great. It's better than using bleach. And it's much, much better for the environment. It breaks down in water very, very quickly. The peroxide does. And it's great at killing all kinds of bacteria. 5 to 10 seconds of a spray on there, mild spray of peroxide, probably an ounce in maybe 10 or 12 ounces of water. You could spray that on your vegetables, let it sit for 10 or 15 seconds, and then rinse them off.
And that's all you need.
And that's all you need, yeah. There's a really great product that has been out. I haven't seen it for a couple of years, but it's a vegetable wash, and it comes in a trigger sprayer, and it's just hydrogen peroxide and peroxacetic acid, and it's a natural way to just kill any type of bacteria. And every now and then you'll see like a E. coli breakout or a salmonella breakout in like organic spinach or lettuce or lettuces or whatever. Yeah, that's because they haven't rinsed the vegetables thoroughly with their antibacterial spray. And so you can do that whether you get it at the grocery store. If you are concerned at all, that's a really simple and easy way to do it. And I think, like I said, it's about an ounce of peroxide and about 10 ounces of water, so it's about a 10-to-1 mix. Just spray it on the vegetables, let it sit for 10 to 15 seconds, and it will kill all the bacteria, and then you can just rinse them off and consume. And away you go. Even like cantaloupes, where you're eating the flesh on the inside, you're not eating the rind. I still wash those suckers like crazy because when you cut into it, you've now like contaminated your knife
inside.
And so then you push it inside. It's like, oh, I just pushed the bacteria right into the interior of my cantaloupe. And so it's always a great idea to wash your vegetables off, whether grown in your own vegetable garden. Like I haven't used a single insecticide this year. I've just used the cedar repellent, so I'm not as concerned. But I do use a lot of manures in the garden, and so which is worse, the insecticide or the bacteria that's coming out of the manure? And so it's equally dangerous. And so just rinse those vegetables off. And like I said, the peroxide works better than bleach does. It really does a great job. And some people just use a little bit of soapy water. Just make sure.
And then wash it off.
Wash and rinse them off, and away you go.
Okay.
Yeah, great question.
And if you want to use peroxide, just a small amount of peroxide.
Yeah, so a 10-to-1.
Doesn't need to be any more than that.
Yep, 10-to-1 mix.
Okay. Well, let's go back out to the phone lines. We have Linda joining us on the line from North Logan. Linda, welcome to the show.
Good morning. Thank you for taking my call. I just have two quick things. I would like you to expand on the cedar repellent. Is this something that you make up yourself from cedar oil, or is it something that you sell?
Great question. Great question. Let's do that one first. Okay. The cedar oil comes in a couple different ways, and it is manufactured and produced by a couple different companies. The one that I use is made for mosquitoes. It's called Mosquito Go, and it's made by Fertilome, and it is a cedar oil granule. It has a 2% cedar oil in there, and so the granules smell wonderful. It smells like a cedar forest right there in your backyard, and you just broadcast it out. So it's really easy to apply in my garden. I just put it in a broadcast spreader, broadcast up and down the rows, and then I don't put it on my vegetables. There's a liquid form as well too, and they both work very, very well. They both repel flying insects like crazy, so it works really well on moths, moths, on flies, on mosquitoes. It works well on grasshoppers. Does not work well on ground crawlers, so like earwigs and beetles that don't fly. Not nearly as effective. So roly-polies, they don't really do damage to your plants. I'm not worried about those. But it's the moths and the flies that come in that lay their eggs. It's their larva that does all the damage. So if you can keep the adults away in the first place, then you have many, many fewer insects than what you would have otherwise. The only issue we've had with the cedar oil is it will flavor your stuff. And so if you use the liquid and you spray it on your tomato plants and some gets on the fruit, now your fruit has cedar oil on it, and so your harvest could taste like cedar. And so I try and stay away from the liquids, especially on the plants that I'm going to be harvesting the fruit off of and eating, because it will flavor your plants for sure. And so that's why I like the granules better. The liquid is super effective in the yard for mosquitoes. Like, say you're going to have a barbecue and you got mosquitoes like crazy. You can spray that the day before everybody comes, and the next day you just like don't have any mosquitoes in your yard at all. So very safe, non-toxic. Some people are allergic to it, so it's best to try it and see how it works. If you have people that have severe allergies in your household, that's a good idea to kind of sample it first. But other than that, it's a great product and super effective.
Okay, great. Thank you. Thank you so much. That
You're welcome,
would be
Linda.
very helpful.
Yeah.
And would that work against grasshoppers?
Works great on grasshoppers. I've used it for probably 10 years on grasshoppers, and last year I had to spray. They were really bad, but I have not had to spray an insecticide for grasshoppers. This year the cedar oil has done sufficient for me. So
taken care of that.
Yeah.
My second question relates to something you mentioned as well. Would you expand on park strip options? Replacing grass in the park strip with things, and I need some more ideas there.
Yeah, absolutely. Logan City just passed an ordinance this year that expanded their park strip options for people who wanted to be a little bit more water conscious. And so there's some great information at the county extension on switching your park strip out. And there is a great website that's set up by, I think it's the Utah Division of Water Resources that set it up, and it's called Flip the Strip. And so just Google Flip Your Strip, and they have some designs there. I think there's about 8 or 10 designs, now that I think about it, that give you like a kind of a plan, kind of a landscape plan to redo your park strip with some different looking plants. And so it's not take your grass out completely and just put gravel in there. It's let's put some nice decorative plants in there that are shorter, that are more attractive, that will help cover the landscape so you don't have just this bare hardscape there, but are very water-wise type plants, so they don't need much water at all. But what they recommend is that instead of doing sprinklers, you put a drip system in. And so then you've got some plants that are smaller that aren't going to block views. Like if you're coming out of your driveway, we definitely don't want to block your view so you can't see people coming on the sidewalk and other cars coming by. It could be dangerous. So these are a lot of plants that are lower growing, a lot of ground covers, a lot of smaller evergreens, ornamental grasses, things like that you can put in there that use minimal water, but they still do need to be watered. So a drip system put in there instead of sprinklers would be amazing. And then you have a park strip that's very attractive to the eye when people drive by. It looks great, and they go, oh, that looks really good. And it's not grass, but usually it's got trees in there. Logan City's ordinance allows you to do about 30% plant material and up to 70% of like a bark or some sort of mulch instead. But you've got to have at least a minimum of 30% of that area in plants. And in plants. Yeah. And that really helps with the heat too. So, put some trees in there to give you some nice shade, put some nice ground cover plants in there, and some of those designs that the extension has come up with, and also on Flip Your Strip, there's some really great options of some different plant material you can put in there that really don't need that much water.
Excellent. I'll get on that and look at it. Thank you very much.
You are so welcome. Thanks for calling this morning, Linda.
Okay. Bye-bye.
All right, bye-bye. Great question.
Yeah.
Two great questions. Whether it's on the insects or there's a lot of water-wise plants that are not native plants. Native plants are great, but you got to be aware that if you're doing native plants, they don't look great for most of the year, and if you water them with supplementary water, they're getting too much.
Yeah.
They're getting way too much water. And so a lot of people have struggled doing native plants because they kill them, because they're getting
basically overwatering
them. Yeah. And so there's a lot of plants that can handle less water, but once you put a drip system in, it is amazing how much less water you're going to use, and the plants will respond. I mean, you can do the same plants that you've got in your yard, but you put a drip system in, and it's going to use 90% less water than a sprinkler would to do the same job. In fact, it's more effective because it's putting the water right down in the root zone. So I've switched everything in my garden to drip hoses and soakers. So I've got soaker hoses and a drip system, and I just am not using hardly any water to keep my garden going compared to what we've had to do in the past. Yeah, just I'll bet we're using probably a 15th of the amount of water that we used to use when we were doing furrow irrigation.
Right. Yeah. Or the old rain birds.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. That's even
sprinklers.
Yeah.
Because you water the weeds more than you water the plants.
Exactly. And so much water is lost to evaporation because it's right there on the surface. But when you're doing a drip system or a soaker hose, it's soaking down into the root zone of the plant. So even if it dries out on the surface fairly quickly, the water's down there below where the plants can get to it. So really good.
Still time to take your calls. We've got about 10 minutes left of the show at 753-5868, 1-800-369-5868. We came right back after the break and did not have a chance to talk about the cash sale that's going on right now at Anderson Seed and Garden.
So cash sale is like the start of our fall clearance, and so we've got some great trees. We've got really nice shrubs, evergreens. We've got roses. We have some nice vines as well, too. And so they're on sale for 15% off. But if you pay with cash, you get an extra 10% off of that. And so you can get up to 25% off if you pay with cash. And cash is not a debit card. It's not a credit card. It's not a check. It's the paper President Green bills that we're all familiar with. And so if you pay with cash, you get that extra 10% off of the 15, and it makes a 25% discount in total. So it's a great way to come in and start enjoying our clearance sale. And there's a good selection of plants available. Can save some money that way. And we're trying to find good homes for all these plants. Yeah, so not too bad. We also are probably going to be finishing up our compost tea production this week. So usually when school starts up, it's usually around the 15th to the 20th of August. That's when we have to call it quits on the compost tea. So this is probably the last week if you want to get some refills on the compost tea. And if you've been using the compost tea on, say, your tomatoes this summer, they should be tall and full and have lots of fruit on them. But we have a lot of people who are kind of struggling getting their tomatoes to ripen up. So there's some things we can definitely do to get your tomatoes to ripen as well, too. Usually first part of August, we start cutting the water back. So we'll let them stress a little bit in between waterings, makes them think that fall's coming and that it's time to reproduce. And so then the tomatoes start to ripen up. You can trim some of that excess growth off. So we'll do a little bit of pruning just to take some of that excess growth off of the plants. And then it's a great idea to cover your plants with a frost cloth in the late afternoon or early evening, and it will retain some heat through the night. And so if you can get your tomatoes to stay warmer at night, then they will ripen up a lot faster. Yeah. And so we recommend a frost cloth, which will, one, keep the bugs off your plants, which is not a bad thing, but it's gonna retain a lot of heat and not allow that heat to escape, and it will keep that heat around the plants, and your fruit will ripen up a lot faster.
Okay.
Yeah, especially as the nighttime temperatures start to cool down as we get into September. It will really, really make a difference because we're getting 80-degree daytime temperatures, but we're going 50
down
at night.
Into the 50s,
and sometimes even into the 40s at night. Then the tomatoes don't ripen up. And so if we can retain that heat, then your plants will ripen a lot faster.
So frost cloth is a great way to go.
The frost cloth. You want the thin frost cloth. It allows the sunlight to come through. It allows water to pass through if we have a rainstorm like we're getting right now. But it keeps the bugs off, and it absorbs and retains that heat, so you don't lose all that heat at night, and it'll make your plants ripen faster.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. Well, let's go back out to the phone lines. We have Zach joining us on the line from Wellsville. Zach, welcome to the show.
Hey. What's up, guys?
How's it going, Zach?
Excellent. Just here with a couple questions this morning. My first one's related to tomatillo plants.
Okay.
I've got a tomatillo plant that some of the flowers or the fruit isn't fully developed and it's dropping off, and then some of them are getting fully developed but they're purple. And we've always had just green tomatillos. I don't know if there's something we can do for this plant and if those purple ones are safe to eat.
The purple ones should be safe to eat. It is not a disease or anything. It's probably just irregular maturation, so they're just maturing irregularly. The ones that are falling off, they are susceptible to blossom end rot like the tomatoes are, so it would not hurt to use a little calcium product on there to help. They might be dropping off because of that. They can be dropping off.
We've noticed that this year. We've been having to spray. I called a few weeks ago and put it on my zucchini, and that really helped.
Oh, it does make a difference. So don't hesitate to use that on your tomatillos as well, too. And the calcium will actually help them ripen up faster as well, too. So we were just talking about how to get your tomatoes to ripen up. Using the calcium chloride on the tomatoes, it will actually help them ripen up faster as well, too. So it's not a bad idea to use that on your plants where you've got a lot of tomatoes that are just staying green and don't want to mature. And with the tomatillos, I'll do a little double checking on the purple color. That's one thing I've never had anybody ask me that one before. I'm not sure about the purple color, but it's not a disease or anything. I think it's just a maturity issue. So double check.
Well, and then my other question is, we've got fruit trees that are now about 5 or 6 years old. And we've had drippers, just drip emitters around them.
Right.
We're wondering if we should switch those to like spray emitters to kind of cover more of the canopy underneath rather than just kind of at the base.
Good question. I would probably keep your drippers and then do like another ring of drippers around them if you can. I'm kind of
further towards the drip line,
right.
Rather than
exactly, and I'm kind of thinking about doing that on some of my trees as well too, where they've gotten bigger. We've got some nice big basins on them that we'll just let a hose trickle in there and just puddle and then saturate through. And I only do it about every 2 weeks, but I'm thinking about pushing it out a little bit farther with a dripper so I can get more of that area where the feeder roots are, get that saturated a little bit better for them. So I've been thinking the same thing, Zach.
Okay, awesome.
All right. I think that
those are my two questions, Mark. Thanks.
Awesome.
And,
you are so welcome.
If you find out anything else about the purple tomatillos, because my wife had found an article about that you can buy purple tomatillos, but that's not what we bought.
Right. They should be green, but I know there are some varieties that are purple, but I think it has to do with the way they're maturing. And so I'll do some double checking. Shoot me a quick email, Zach, and then when I find an answer for you, I'll respond back to it. So have you got my email?
Yep. Ask Mark.
You got it.
We email you quite a bit.
Awesome. Yep. Shoot me a quick email. I'll do a little double checking on it for you, and I'll respond back. So awesome.
Perfect. Thanks, Mark.
You're welcome. Thank you. Have a great weekend.
Hey, you too.
All right. We'll see you.
About 3 minutes left, Mark, and we should talk a little bit about just with where we're heading into this weekend. We've got a little bit of some storm action.
Yeah.
And we did mention for those who are using traditional sprinkler systems and watering systems, definitely watch this. This is a time to maybe cut that back at least a little bit.
Yeah.
Doesn't look like we're going to see the rain totals this weekend that we had last weekend, of course.
Right.
But these little storms can definitely take care of a watering of your lawn.
Makes a huge difference. So what we recommend is 1 to 1.5 inches of water per week, depending on how hot it is. And so if we get a storm that comes through and it delivers a half an inch of water, that's a full half a week of watering you don't have to do. And where we got over an inch and a half last big storm.
Weekend.
That's like a week and a half's worth of water. So basically, even though the soil dries out on the surface, it stayed wet underneath there. And that's the way my garden was. It's like you could go out there and you can just dig down an inch. It's like, oh, it's still wet.
Yeah.
It's still wet down there. It's like I don't need to water. And so it's the same way with the grass, especially where the grass is there. It's shading the soil, and so the moisture staying there even longer. So for every quarter to a half of an inch of storm that we get, that is 3 to 4, maybe even 5 days that you don't have to water your lawn. And so if we continue to get nice storms that come through, just remember, for every half inch of rainwater we get, you can go 3 to 4 days without using your sprinklers at all. Yeah.
So,
and if we get an inch, that's almost a week's worth.
Shut them off completely,
Yeah.
or just put them on a rain delay for a day or two.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, it will. You'll be surprised how green your lawn will be because it's pulling some of the natural nitrogen out of the atmosphere as well too, and it retains the moisture stays there longer when it rains than when your sprinklers hit it. It just does.
Okay, and also stop on by Anderson Seed and Garden this weekend for the cash sale.
Cash sale ongoing, 25% off on all of our trees and shrubs and roses and evergreens if you pay with cash. So it's a great deal, a great way for us to get our clearance sale started. And compost tea, we're going to keep brewing this week, but probably by this time next week, we'll probably be done with the compost tea. So if you want to get your last batch or so, we've got it brewing.
Okay.
We've got it brewing.
We'll be back again next week. In the meantime, sounds like for a lot of people who are trying to get those tomatoes to ripen, like myself, we need to stop by and grab some of that frost cloth.
Yep, the frost cloth or the yield booster, do a little bit of pruning and cut your water back on those so that they think they are not invincible and that they're going to die. And then they will ripen up for you. So that's how it works. So.
And join us again next week for the Garden Guide here on KVNU.
Covering all the news. Stay with 610 AM and 102.1 FM. Breaking news and stimulating talk. KVNU Logan.